Good evening, one and all. Welcome along. It is episode 1, season 1 of a brand new show from your crew here at UK Cowboys. It is the Roundtable, and this is going to be a new show we're doing on a weekly or fortnightly basis. We've yet to decide. Rich and Graham are in the chair tonight. Rich, Graham, how are things, gentlemen?
Jolly good, jolly good. Very quick.
Said last night on the podcast, 7 weeks to go. So
I know.
it
Very
does sound
quick.
good.
Graham, you're on Twitter, aren't you?
Yeah, every so often.
Okay. Hey, first comment. What's your Twitter handle?
There we go. Just Graham I. Wilson.
That's why I'm missing.
There we go. So, just to give folks an update while Rich is updating our Twitter feed as we speak. This is a new show that we're gonna put out weekly. And it's great to see that Lebarski and Joe are already in. They're already commenting. This show is really going to be for you, the fans, to get a bit more involved in. We're going to have this show, as we say, fortnightly or weekly, depending on how it goes. And we're going to take one topic and discuss it at length. And hopefully, over time, we might get a few of you guys in with us for a live chat. You can suggest what you'd like to discuss in this. You know, I'm sure both Rich and Graham have one topic already at the top of their mind for the very next show.
We're going to try and keep that. We're going to try and keep that one under 3 hours if we can.
That's bold.
It's going to be a very, very hard show to keep under that time frame, but we'll try it. We're definitely going to try it. But so the focus of tonight's show, and like myself and Graham and Rich, we've been preparing for this one for a couple of weeks. We've been chatting away amongst ourselves, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion on Dak Prescott. We're going to counterpoint on whether or not the Cowboys should extend Dak, whether they should look to maybe potentially bring in a new quarterback in a couple of years, you know, when Dak's contract is up, and, you know, open it up to questions from you, the viewers, as well, what your opinions are, what you think of it's going to be with Dak. You know, whether you want to pay maybe 50 million in 2 years' time for him, what the cap situation is going to be, what the cap hit is going to be, and, you know, if you're paying a quarterback 50 million a year, is it going to be worth him being paid that and not getting to a Super Bowl? So, gentlemen, I'm going to throw it over to one or both of you to open up the debate.
Yeah, we won't get into. I won't get into my opinions of it just yet. Basically, I'll try and set us up for the show tonight. On one hand, you've got a growing section of Dallas Cowboys fans who feel that when it gets to the end of December, start of January, heading into February, there's just something about Dak Prescott that switches off. Whether it be concentration, the pressure mounts, the interceptions are way more magnified because, let's face it, it's prime TV, so everybody gets the opportunity to see it. And to pay somebody that amount of money to not take us deep into the playoffs is a real problem for some people. On the other hand, you've got a section of NFL fans who realize that there aren't 32 quarterbacks to go around. If we don't pay Dak Prescott $50 million, there will be a queue at the door. Somebody will. And then you've got the question I love to throw out in the middle of all this, just draft one. Just draft a quarterback. It's as easy as that. Think of the first round busts we've had in the past 10 years at quarterback. It's frightening. One came close, Johnny Manziel. I don't even know if he's still playing the game anymore. A huge amount of Dallas Cowboys fans wanted Johnny Football as our quarterback.
It wasn't just the fans.
It wasn't just the fans. That's a great point.
Yeah. So I can see a couple of comments in, and folks, we will get to comments in time. Like, we just want to try and get this going, get the juices flowing, and we can kind of introduce the questions as they come up. But Rich, you're very much an advocate for keeping Dak around and potentially extending him. And I think Graham has made some great points in terms of, there aren't 32 NFL caliber quarterbacks in this league. And we do have one of the very best quarterbacks in Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much a case of I'm pro Dak as much as I try to be pragmatic and as sensible as I can be with it, which I know is a funny thing to come out of my mouth. But the way I see it is it's quite simple when you break it down. And Gray made a very good point there of there's not 32 quarterbacks in the league. There's not as many.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is there are even fewer quarterbacks that can make a team. In any given era, you can count them on one hand. Now, we've just lost one as a league relatively recently. In Brady. I say lost, he's still alive, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's not very many left in the league that can do that in terms of when everything's said and done. When the game's on the line, they will make crazy plays and throw people open. They make up for the differences and the losses on the team, or at least on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
There's very few people that have ever done that, and then any one time can do that. The rest of the time, you are sat with the reality of you have to have an adequate supporting cast for your quarterback to a degree. Some quarterbacks just need a decent line. Some quarterbacks need a half-decent line and some decent receivers. Some of them need a bit of a mix of all three. Some of them need a run game. Some of them have a running scheme. And there's schemes involved in all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it's that simple thing. There's very few people that can do it by themselves, by and large, or make up for all those losses. You have to have a supporting cast. Everyone knows this is a team game. And the fact of the matter is, Dak Prescott is one of those quarterbacks. But he doesn't need a shit ton of help, pardon my French. I don't find it coincidence that the last time that this team had a good offensive line was before this season, the last time they did anything really meaningful or had the chance to in the playoffs. And the team generally, the vibe was really good. And 2 years prior to that, with the same line, with a different quarterback, with a different running back, with different wide receivers, the same thing happened. We were running through everyone in this league and got to a point and it fell apart. I don't see how you can say that's Dak Prescott. I don't see how you can say it's the fault of any particular quarterback. I think the fault there is self-evident in the fact that you've identified, and it's fairly obvious, that Dak Prescott is the kind of player that he is. And he's actually shown that he is a gamer. He's shown that he can, in crunch time, he can make plays. He can go and do certain things, but he can only do so much. He needs more support than a Tom Brady, than an Aaron Rodgers, than a couple of other players. He's not been getting that.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple. And I'm not trying to exonerate him of all fault. Far from it. He makes mistakes. This season just gone being evident. But that doesn't detract from the fact that this front office hasn't done a good enough job of building the team around him.
Yeah. And I think looking at Joe's comment there, he is kind of backing up your viewpoint, and like it's the point that you two keep coming back to every season.
Yeah.
is that lack of investment and that lack of consistency within the O-line itself. You know, like Dak is only one part of the team. And unfortunately, because he plays quarterback, he gets most of the flack. Whereas, as you both always say, it's not just Dak Prescott. But unfortunately, media and fans will get on a quarterback because he's being paid X amount of dollars.
Yeah. TV has a large part to do with that.
Yeah.
TV doesn't show you the fact that the wide receiver turned left when he should have turned right. The wide receiver should have came back for the ball. The wide receiver on that play has an option to do this if the cornerback does that and whatever. I mean, anybody that watches the game will know that as soon as Dak Prescott throws an interception, the camera is zoomed in to the head and shoulders shot, and it's staring him straight in the eyeballs. The TV camera is not the least bit interested if the receiver fell over or if he cut the wrong way or if he was held or this, that, and the other. They want to blame Dak Prescott. It's America's team. It's America's team's quarterback. There aren't many bigger positions in all of sports. It's all set up too easily to blame Dak Prescott for every single interception that he throws.
Yeah, and there's the flip side of that. The argument that everyone likes to make, keeping it in the East, is, well, look what the Giants did. Everyone likes to rip the piss out of Eli Manning, and yet he went and got the job done. But let's make no bones about it, that wasn't in large part due to Eli Manning carrying the entire team. The defense played a very, very large part of that entire season. That is something that no quarterback, even Tom Brady, can do. Joe Montana didn't do anything about the defense on his team. That is something that is down to the front office, ultimately, and the other side of the ball. There are plenty of quarterbacks that have won a ring based off of the efforts of the rest of the team, be it defense, be it other people, rather than their own raw God-given talent of them being the best quarterback in the league. We know teams that aren't necessarily the best in the league win Super Bowl rings. It happens. It does happen.
For instance.
Yeah.
Look at what the Eagles managed to do the first time round.
Yeah.
It happens. Sometimes things click. Sometimes they don't click for a long time. A la Dallas. But because you're neglecting certain things, and I believe trying to make Dak something he's not, then you're not setting yourself up for success. And if you're not setting yourself up for success as a team, it's hard to blame any one player, whether it's the quarterback, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a running back, whether it's a left guard, whatever.
Yeah.
The fault lies elsewhere.
I'm just going to pull up a comment here. DJ Dog sent it in, and I suppose it's more of a question. And it kind of adds to the discussion that we're having here. So he says, do we really want to roll the dice at the quarterback position with a team whose window is now?
No, absolutely not.
That's effectively, I suppose, one of the biggest questions is, our window is right now. And effectively, we're not going to move on from Dak Prescott during this window.
No.
So it's maybe 2 years from now. Dak's contract is up. Should we extend him, or should we maybe, after 2 years, we'll have had 2 years in the Mike McCarthy offense, and Graham, I know you know the Mike McCarthy offense better than the two of us. At that point, is there maybe a discussion to be had?
The one thing I'll say about the Mike McCarthy offense is that it's always had two running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, There's one capable running back, hopefully. We'll see what happens when we give him 70% of the carries. And Ronald Jones, who has more rings on the team than anybody else combined. Would I want him starting? Absolutely not. That's the situation that we're in. But to go back to the original question, here's some absolute crackers for you. Now, I've just gone down this list here in particular. Robert Griffin, Johnny Manziel, EJ Manuel, remember him?
Yes.
Paxton Lynch.
Yes. Paxton Lynch was mentioned already tonight.
Josh Freeman, Mark Sanchez. You could argue Joe Flacco after he won his ring. Brady Quinn, Jamarcus Russell. Do you see where I'm going? Mitchell Trubisky, second overall. Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
It's not a science.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a science by any means of the word. I can see where fans come from. Yes, let's move on and try something else. But we do not want to turn into the Browns or the Jets.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jets have just given up the farm to get somebody capable because they are sick and tired in New Jersey of not having somebody to throw the football. We need to be very, very careful about what we wish for because Dak was a 4th round pick. We were lucky to get the caliber of Dak Prescott where we got him. Yeah. Now you can argue all you like about the contract and so on, but that is not Dak Prescott's fault. That is not the Cowboys' fault. It's a league as a whole. So many quarterbacks have reset the market and will not have a sniff of winning a Super Bowl. Absolutely no chance. Let's not forget, Derek Carr was once the highest paid player in the league. Why? Because he was an above average quarterback and it was his time. Yeah. Because basically, if the Raiders didn't set it, somebody else would be quite happy to set it. And that's just the league that we live in. He has void years coming up as well, so you're going to have to think about that. If he's not on the team, that's money, that's dead money that we're not going to be able to use. Yeah. At least if we get him re-signed, we can work that money somewhere into the deal. Yeah, but the original question, should we move on in prime years? No, I don't think we should. I mean, that is that not a frightening list? I mean, here's some more. Baker Mayfield, who's only just managed to find his 5th team, I think it is. They're still working on the Baker Mayfield project. Is Josh Rosen even playing? I don't know.
Nope.
Selected 1st round 2018. You can, Kyler Murray, is he a 1st round talent? Tagovailoa, the Dolphins constantly talk about moving on from Tagovailoa. Now don't get me wrong, there have been some successes. Trevor Lawrence was 1st overall. Joe Burrow was 1st overall. But think about what they had to give up to get there, to go and get them.
Yeah.
I mean, are we saying we want to tank a season to get into the top 5? Absolutely not.
No. Well, this is the thing is you, and I made this point to you two guys before, was that any team really that's worth its salt is not going to tank, because that's just not. If you have players that are going to tank, they should be playing the game. Simple as. But teams in this league go through rebuild phases all the time. Yeah. Some of them go through quite extensive rebuild times, but Dallas never really does that. Dallas's front office is always wanting to put the maximum effort in to make sure that that window never really closes or is never really that far away. There's always that thing of we're a player or two away from doing it perpetually. And the fact is, you're not. You're not a player or two away. You're 4 or 5 players away. Because the players you have not necessarily aren't good enough, or you don't have the reliability there. The fact of the matter is, you've spent so long now trying to address things in one way, all your problems in one way, re-signing your own guys and in the draft. If you're not using all the tools in your toolbox, you're not going to be able to do the best job. Sometimes you need to use the right tool. Sometimes you can get away with using a sticking plaster on things. But for too long, this team has been putting sticking plasters on things and moving those things around and juggling, seemingly trying to find which ones they can best manage. Is it defensive backs? Is it wide receivers? Is it tight ends? Is it linebackers? Is it the offensive line now? It's always on the move. And you never really see that, I don't think, with another team. Now, I get the aversion, well, not aversion, but the desire to not want to go out and make crazy big splashes in free agency. Certainly not regularly. But you have to take into account reality and the facts. And the facts are, if you're going to try to keep that window open, or you are convinced that you are in that phase, then you either need to do it properly and go all in, or you need to say, this isn't going to happen. We can't make it happen this time around, sadly. We need a rebuild. We need to do something. We need more money. We need more picks, whatever. You need to orchestrate the change. And the reality is, not only do these things keep, that's a very good one. Not only do these things keep changing, the problems keep changing, they're multiplying.
Yeah.
And they're all in really, really bad places right now.
Yeah.
So.
And like to add on to the point that you're making, Rich, like as much as stick and plasters are there are newer issues coming up all the time. And we saw one of those issues coming up earlier in the week in terms of, one of our 2 best players potentially not being at OTAs next week. And there has to be a certain point you kind of go, what phase are we in? Are we going to push all our chips in, go all in, do an LA Rams on it and just go, right, we've 2 years, let's push everything in that we can? Or do we go, let's strip it back, let's get picks for who we can and build for 2 to 3 to 4 years from now?
Because this is the thing, and everyone says, and one of the reasons the Cowboys fans hate it, and rightly so, in recent years is because of the success that other teams have had. Look at the Eagles. Look at what they did. And I don't mean changing management. Look at what the plan was. Look at what they did. They came up with a plan. They've executed it, and it's had success. And to a point, they've kept doing it. They've kept carrying out that plan. They've won 1 Super Bowl. They've been to another one. Certainly gotten further than the Cowboys have in 28 years now. You have to change something, and making little splashes in free agency isn't going to do anything. Re-signing a lot of your guys, as great as it is, I'm a sucker for it, for wanting to do it, because it's better the devil you know. In my book, doing things 1 or 2 ways isn't going to cut it. You've got an array of tools, array of ways to affect change on this roster. You need to address them all. And they haven't done that this season. and they haven't done it for quite a while. They've made some big moves. When they can get a deal, they'll do it if they feel they can get a really good deal. But there doesn't seem to be the real desire to go and get it and get the end goal and fill a big hole. If you're not going to fill a big hole, if the draft board doesn't fall that way, fine. Cool. I get that. If you've chosen not to make a trade for someone, fine. I get that. But you're locking yourself into going the third route or doing nothing at all. And doing nothing at all is a pretty bad idea.
Yep.
Because it's not worked for you for nearly 3 decades now.
Yeah.
You got to do something different.
I also think one of the problems that Cowboys fans have is they look around the league and see younger first rounders hitting multiple Super Bowls, and we're just starting to get a little bit tired as a fan base. I mean, the obvious one is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Especially in the second one. I don't see many studs on that Chiefs offense. I mean, obviously you've got Kelsey. He's a stud. But and that I don't think the wide receiver room's particularly brilliant. They're running back by committee, despite having spent a first rounder on
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think the play of Patrick Mahomes is the biggest contribution that Chiefs team had, and that's the problem that Dak Prescott faces. But the problem you've got is that Patrick Mahomes is going to be around for the next 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, and
drafting one doesn't necessarily mean you're going to beat Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. And if I can just add something here, Graham, and this kind of feeds back into the point that Rich was making in terms of how you address things. If you look at what Tampa Bay did to them in winning their Super Bowl, Tampa Bay absolutely destroyed the Chiefs' offensive line. The Chiefs went out, they brought in Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, and they addressed other positions. They brought Creed Humphrey in the draft. They now have one of the 2 best offensive lines in this league. Mm-hmm. As you say, it's not a stellar cast at wide receiver or running back for them, but they surrounded and protected that quarterback to give him those opportunities.
I mean, the obvious one is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill wanted paid, and the Chiefs said, "No thanks, Tyreek. We'll take a first rounder for you. We'll keep that salary cap money, and we'll take something else." I'm not sure what they turned it into, whether they spent it on a draft pick or if it was involved in trading for somebody. They must have a set roster payment structure, and wide receiver is extremely low on it. I think that, just off the top of my head, I think their top receiver is it Sky Moore?
Sky Moore, yeah.
He could end up playing the slot.
Yeah.
Marquez Valdes-Scantling has a Super Bowl ring after so many mundane years with the Packers. Wasn't particularly good with the Chiefs, but he now has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
There are no studs apart from Travis Kelce. That there are no studs. It's the quarterback play that was enough in Kansas, and I think that's the biggest problem that we're dealing with, because Dak Prescott doesn't have the same levels as Patrick Mahomes. But like Rich is saying, there are so many ways to win a Super Bowl. I mean, who's the stud running back for the Eagles? They don't have one.
Is that not the guy they gave a $250 million contract to?
I like that. Yeah, but
But
you get what I mean. It's
yeah,
running back. It's running back by committee.
Yeah.
They've started spending capital on wide receiver now, obviously.
In terms of AJ Brown, and they've Devontae Smith coming up as well.
Yeah.
But there's a question here. Lebarski put it in about 15 minutes ago, and I wanted to come back around to it. His idea is that in all seriousness, I don't think we have a choice when we're looking at the cap in terms of Dak Prescott and upcoming extensions, which we're going to cover in another article coming out shortly. The best option seems to be extend and throw darts at the quarterback position in each draft, which is something Mike McCarthy did at the Packers, but has been reluctant to do with the Cowboys thus far.
To a certain extent, they treat the quarterback position extremely differently in Green Bay. They bring somebody in. I think Rodgers was 24th overall.
24th, yeah.
And they let him sit and they let him learn. And there aren't many better to learn from than Brett Favre. And then Rodgers ran his course and he got to the age of 30 and they went for Jordan Love. And they took Jordan Love first round and they let him sit for 4 years, I think it is. I mean, that's a long time. This will be his fourth season.
Yeah.
Now, by hook or by crook, it's now time for Jordan Love. I don't think the Packers were particularly excited to move on to Jordan Love. I think there just had to be a partner of the ways. But you cannot be better prepared than Jordan Love to sit behind a Hall of Famer for 3 years to learn. You can't get much better preparation than that. I mean, is that where the Cowboys want to go? I mean, that's certainly an option. Do we not first, but do we give up a second rounder? Do we go and get somebody like do we go and get somebody like a Will Levis? He maybe not play this year as the Miami quarterback. What's his name? He got cut and moved to the Titans.
Ryan Tannehill.
Is Tannehill still there?
Yeah. They've Tannehill, Malik Willis, and Will Levis as the quarterback room.
I mean, they've certainly tried to. I mean, I've got the list here. Malik Willis was a third rounder. Will Levis was a second rounder. So they obviously recognise that they have issues in Tennessee, but they're addressing it with high draft picks. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, because there aren't enough to go around. Like I said at the start of the show, and you're either going to have to bring somebody in quickly in the first round and throw them to the dogs, and hopefully it works out. But again, you look at who went 1, 2, and 3. The Panthers, not a great season. Bryce Young's going to have his work cut out. Texans chose first. Well, we're going to choose first overall. CJ Stroud has got a huge problem on his hands. And Anthony Richardson, he might have the best chance to succeed.
Yeah,
early doors, because the Colts don't have I don't think the Colts have a bad team. I think the Colts just got it wrong.
They've been getting it wrong at quarterback for the last number of years. I think they've gone from Luck to Brissett to Rivers to Matty Rice last year. There's
another one. There's Andrew Luck. The Colts had Andrew Luck signed before the draft.
Yeah,
he took his $60 million guaranteed, signed the contract. They handed him the card, and they thought Andrew Luck was going to be it for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he turned around one summer and said, "Yeah, I don't want to play this game anymore," and retired. And that was it. just draft one. It's that easy.
Yeah. Speaking, go play a game with me here, right, guys? You know my chain of thought. They're not supporting the cast enough. I've said plenty of times that I don't think they've done enough to solve the left guard position. Last year or this year, right? To play a game. And I get this is hindsight 2020, but when you're evaluating anything, you do it after the fact. So let's put that outside.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stop making the excuse that this team doesn't have the cap room. It's a load of bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's be blunt about it. And I'll tell you for why. This team is in severe need of a left guard because your left guard you drafted last season showed you actually got lucky and you found a left tackle. So let's ride that because it worked. And in the last game of the season, he shut down one of the NFL's best. So let's take that as written because it makes freaking sense.
Yep.
If I said you could have on this team right now, one of the top three, given where they want to go with this scheme, this team could have one of the top three from last season left guards in pass protection. He had an 86.7 rating, allowed one sack, one quarterback hit, and 11 hurries in 663 pass blocking snaps. He played every snap of the season opener, every snap of the last game of the season, and every damn snap in between. Do you know who I'm talking about, first off?
There's one name springs to mind automatically, but I'm guessing it's not that person.
Go for it.
The name that automatically springs to mind is Quentin Nelson.
No. Ben Powers.
Yeah.
Went from the Ravens to the Broncos. He was second last year, behind only All-Pro Joe Tooney.
Mm-hmm.
He's costing $5.25 million against the cap this year. 4-year deal. Guaranteed 27 at signing. Guaranteed money at signing. AAV 12.875. Total dollars 51.5. So this year it's going to cost $5.25 million. After the rookie class, Cowboys have got 12 to play with. So you've still got another 6.
Yeah.
And you still get the people that you traded for this season.
Yeah.
Had they simply been quicker and thought, you know what? Let's just go get a proven guy at left guard.
Yeah.
Because we've already got a second-year rookie playing next to him. If that's not what we're going to do in the draft, let's just guarantee it. It's a big hole. Let's do it. Now, there's other people going down that list, but that's the guy at the top. He's 26 years old. Had a damn good season.
Was he a free agent?
He was a free agent pickup.
He was a free agent.
Yeah.
So why did this team not go and get a guy that's going to cost you, or would have cost you, $5.25 million this year? He's one of the best pass protectors in the game, the second best last year, given where this team now wants to go scheme-wise. That would sure shoot and plug a hole at left guard, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I get this is hindsight, and I'll give a little bit with that. But like I said, you can only review things after the fact. Yeah. Why have we not gone and done that? It's perfectly doable. You've got 12 million in space after your rookies. So he would have cost you 5.25. You could have got him twice and had change.
Yeah.
But that's this year, Rich. Next year, his cap number's 15.
Yeah. You can afford that this year.
What's Treylon Diggs' number next year? What's CeeDee Lamb's number next year?
Yeah.
But I think I do take your point. I do take your point. They could have done it, but I think they are set on offensive line. That's why they went. That's why they went defensive tackle.
I agree, and
they
scares
are
the shit out of me.
They are constantly in denial at this stage. On Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith, like I've said umpteen times on this show, Tyron Smith hasn't played a full season for 10 years. Hello? Bang, 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 bang. It doesn't happen. I mean, it's so wafer thin on offensive line. Like we said last night on the show, this Dallas Cowboys defense hasn't been this good for a long, long time. And you would hope so because they've spent so little on offense.
So, can I bring this a little bit back towards, as we said, the topic of discussion in terms of Dak Prescott? In that the Cowboys have thrown 4th and 5th round resources, with the exception of Tyler Smith in last year's draft. They've thrown day 3 darts at left guard, center. None of them have really stuck around or have hit as yet. And if, as you say, Rich, you go out and you bring in a Ben Powers in free agency, who you go, right, that guy is my left guard, Tyler Smith's my left tackle, and I have Tyron Smith who can play swing tackle or can play in a pinch at right tackle. And you actually get a consistent line. And then you allow your quarterback to actually do what he's good at.
I mean, the Cowboys don't do consistent line. It just does not happen. I mean, in an ideal world, if those 5 players, five players play 17 games, then they've pulled a rabbit out of the hat. But it will simply not happen. Terrence Steele, Tyron Smith, they're the first 2. Before you know it, you've moved Tyler Smith out to tackle. You've moved him away from Tyler Biadasz. Again, moving people all over the place. At one point we had Tyron Smith playing right tackle. You know, it's like you pull a name out the hat and see where you're playing that week. I mean, I know the guys have talked about. I don't think I was on the offensive line show, but there's going to have to be another Terrence Steele from somewhere. Somebody that was not a walk on, but an undrafted free agent, or a low pick that comes out of nowhere and just increases. I mean, the Big Lebowski is just. Josh Ball, I mean, that's the caliber that we've drafted up until Tyler Smith.
Well, the only other names to throw out is the 2 Connors, who were both 2nd round picks in 2018 and 19, but you've not selected a guard or any offensive lineman until Tyler Smith since 2019. You've not invested and you haven't hit. So are you going to continue to try and I don't get what the strategy is. You'd think, okay, we spent these draft picks and now regardless, we're going to go and address the defensive line. Okay. You've still got a problem because the stuff you tried to hit on, unfortunately, hasn't worked out. So you need another way to sort that. What are you going to do? They haven't really done anything. They brought in some to be a better way of saying it, some cheaper labour.
Yeah. And that's coming in the comments, like DJ Dog and Labarski have both mentioned. Hopefully, Willetsko and Richards will fill out.
This is the thing. Hopefully, and you can't address all your needs in one go. Or even in a few years, you can't. But you need to prioritize what you're going to do, and it seems you need to try and do the best you can. You need to utilize every asset you have, and you need to rank priorities. And I would think having a good offensive line, given the last 2 seasons that you had the most success with, was when you had a good offensive line, would rank fairly high on your list. You might want to develop your defensive line, but you need to start building somewhere. If you're just going to build another place and neglect it, you've just taken those 2 situations and switched them. You're no further forward, really.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I mean, defense wins championships. I made the point earlier about the Giants, but the Giants' offensive line that year was not that bad. And the Giants' offense as general on that year was not that bad. It just wasn't the reason overall that they won.
I mean, tonight's show about Dak Prescott, so I'll try and keep it relative to Dak Prescott. They didn't get him a lineman. Let's face it. I mean, a seventh rounder. Was it a seven?
I think he was fifth.
Richards?
I seen Richards was a 5th rounder. I think
he was a 5th rounder. So he could potentially be the next Terrence Steele. I won't write him off just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, Schoonmaker. Did Dak Prescott need Luke Schoonmaker? I mean,
really.
Were Ferguson and Hendershot so terrible? I don't think so. But that 2nd round pick's going to live. It's going to live in the memory because there was a guard there. There literally was a guard there.
I'm just opening up my my book on it.
We could have. Do you know we could have packaged 2 and 3 and gone and get him. The name escapes me. Brian, you'll tell me in a minute.
Osiris Torrance was taken with the very next pick.
They could have had Torrance. I mean, really, they could have. I know linebackers thin, so Overshawn could be a good pick. Fehoko, do we need an edge rusher? I'm not convinced. You've got. Yeah, I mean, time will tell. Time will tell. But I think this goes back to my original point that the team think they're set at offensive line.
Yeah.
Because the options were there to supplement it, to add to it.
Yeah.
Obviously, defending the run was a big issue. And I'm going to get over the Mazzie Smith pick sooner or later because it was a big issue. And that defensive line looks pretty sweet now. So long as he plays to potential, we've seen plenty of 1st round D tackles. I mean, think how many the Eagles have got. I don't know if all are hitting on all cylinders just yet, but they've certainly got the depth there. But anyway, offense. I think they think it's set offensive line. We don't have the big-bodied running back anymore.
Nope.
I think you'd have to be honest and say, is the Cowboys' offense better, the same, or below? Like lesser than last year? Would we all agree it's lesser?
Yeah.
The offensive line hasn't improved. You could argue that tight end has improved, but tight end was in a good place prior.
Yep.
Running back has declined. Wide receiver is probably the same. I do like the Cooks pickup. I do like the Cooks pickup. You can't get over the offensive line.
And this is the thing: is it's a roundtable about Dak Prescott, but the reality of the situation isn't Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
In a vacuum, Dak Prescott in a vacuum is a lot better than a lot of the other quarterbacks in that league, and he's better than some of the quarterbacks in that league, or as good, that have had success, or more success than he has, in the playoffs. So in a vacuum, is he not as good as them? No. When you look at it in a vacuum, he's as good as a lot of the quarterbacks that have had like previous seasons. I don't get why people think adding a different quarterback to the mix, be it going mad for somewhere else, paying through the nose, drafting someone, whatever you do, adding a different quarterback to the same situation, you'd best hit on Tom Brady 2.0 or Aaron Rodgers 2.0, because, less the attitude and the problems that come with the latter one. Otherwise, it's pointless. And even the second has shown you he can't do it all himself without the supporting cast.
Yeah.
A half-decent supporting cast. This isn't... Having conversations about a quarterback in a vacuum is, to a point, a relatively pointless exercise, in my opinion, because they rely inherently on other people in the team to do their job. You can more readily... There are certain things you can critique them for, but general overall success of a team is not one of them. Yeah. It's a fallacy. I get that that's how we measure how great these guys are, how many Super Bowl rings they win. Tom Brady, you'd be measured by how many he's won and how many games he's won and how dominant he has been. It won't be how dominant the team's been. It's been how dominant Tom Brady is. Yeah. Because that's the position. I get that. But in reality, having an honest conversation in the cold light of day, you can't honestly make that assessment and say it's watertight, because it's not. It's as watertight as a sieve. That's why this conversation has been... we've gone all around it. And it's not making mistakes with Dak, far from it. He needs to get better at doing what he's doing. He needs to stop trying to be what he's not, what he is, and has been since a rookie. And he did really well as a rookie when you look at his situation, make an instinctual read and connect. And he hasn't been made to do that. They've been trying to make him into a seasoned thrower, not a scrambler, a la Tony Romo. They're trying to make him something he's not.
Yeah,
it's Mahomes is Mahomes.
Yeah,
Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott. Yeah, don't try and make one the other.
Yeah,
and bear in mind that Mahomes was on the board for 9 other teams, and they said no.
Yeah,
the guy that's won two Super Bowls in the early stages of his career. The Bears took Mitchell Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes, and Bears Nation will never, ever let them forget. Never. I mean, see to get a first-round quarterback, a first-round caliber quarterback. I mean, everyone's a first-round caliber quarterback, but you get what I mean. You're going to have a really poor season, and this team's too good to have a really poor season. I mean, in recent history, if you don't jump up to the top 5, top 10, you're not going to get one. Think how long Anthony Richardson was a second-round pick. He was a project. And as the weeks went on, all of a sudden the Colts jump up to number 4 to go and get him. Why? Because they thought the Titans were going to go and take Richardson. So they had to consider their own needs. They had to consider the Titans' needs. And I can't remember who owned number 3, Brian. Can you remember?
I can't.
Whoever it was owned number 3.
I think it might have been Detroit.
I bet they were delighted because fan bases scream out for quarterbacks, and teams in the top 5 who don't need one have struck gold. I mean, think of the. I know I keep going back to this, but it's the just draft one comment that really gets under my skin. Zach Wilson taken second in the 2021 draft.
Trey Lance.
Where is he? Trey Lance, one pick after him. The 49ers would rather have Mr. Irrelevant starting over Trey Lance.
Yep.
This is how wild the thing is. And we want to go and roll the dice with a playoff team. We want to risk the chances of a playoff team to get rid of Prescott, not pay him the $50 million and go and take somebody else. And I just think it's too scary. It's too scary for me. I mean, none of us are saying, right, let's pay Dak Prescott $250 million over 5 years and be done with it. None of us are saying that.
Yeah.
Because he's not a top 5. But he is inside the top 10.
Yeah.
And 22 other teams would love to be there. And that's the problem we've got. I think that's where it's boiled down. For me, that's where it boils down. We maybe not want to pay the $50 million straight off the bat. I think we will pay it in the long run. But there are 10 teams in this league who would love to pay Dak Prescott $50 million.
Yep.
Gents, I didn't think we were going to go as long as we have, but it's great to see, and it's great to see that people have stuck with us. So, look, we'll try and wrap this up as quickly as we can. You know, in 50 seconds.
We're going to need another 20 minutes.
If you want to go for another 20 minutes, we can.
But you know, that's why we've gone. Sorry to interrupt, but that's why we've gone the whole hour.
Yeah,
because it's not an exact science, and I don't think any one of us has a stone cold opinion on Prescott.
Yeah.
I mean, see, like, just to play devil's advocate, see that $50 million. That's your first round quarterback who's on what, 5, 6, 7?
Say
maybe a bit higher
10,
than
maybe by now.
Call it 10.
Yeah.
You could get a left guard. You could get a very capable wide receiver. Maybe another running back. That's what the $50 million buys you. That's why teams have. That's why the Ravens stressed so much over making Jackson the highest paid, because they're looking at it going, right, we need this, we need that, and that, but we also need Jackson. Who's more important? And they finished on Jackson.
So the question I'm going to ask both of you, right? It's off season 2024. We're a year from now. You're entering the final year of Dak Prescott's contract before you get into the void years, right? The Cowboys have gone.
I wish you hadn't asked this question, Brian, because I'm going to make it so much more complicated.
The Cowboys have gone 12-5 and have made it after 29 years to the divisional round and lost. Did not make it to the Super Bowl. You are Jerry Jones. What are you about to do? Given your franchise quarterback has done something that hasn't been done since Troy Aikman was in the building.
Get him on the most team-friendly deal you can. Get as many people on his team-friendly deals as you can. Re-sign as many of those players as you can, identifying where you can make genuine improvements. And for the love of God, go get yourself a proper left guard from somewhere. Because if you can get to that point without a set starting left guard, because Tyler Smith will have been playing tackle, because Tyron Smith will have gone down.
All-pro Tyler Smith.
All-pro Tyler Smith will have been playing left tackle. You need a left guard. If you can do that without a starting left guard, go get yourself a left guard, take yourself to the promised land. Because frickin' A, if you can do that without one, imagine what you can do with one. And realistically, to answer the question more directly, you need to ask yourself the question, do you think you can have a fair analysis of Dak Prescott's abilities, given the fact the last time he had a solid offensive line was his rookie season? Do you think you can have a fair assessment? And anyone that tries to tell me yes, I will slap in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Unless their name's Brian Broadus, because I like him too much.
Graham, take it away. I can see you in pain there.
See, I'm glad you added parameters to the question, Brian, because by my counting, we're picking at 27th or 28th.
Yeah.
Championship game, did you say?
Championship game, you're picking 29 to 32.
So, no. 32 is a Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, but we got to the championship game, the NFC championship game, and lost.
So we're picking 29
or
to 30th.
Yeah.
You're not getting a starting caliber quarterback at 29 to 30th. This is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Tyron Smith has probably retired.
Yes.
Micah Parsons is starting to think about holding out.
Yes.
You've probably got CeeDee Lamb playing on his fifth-year option.
Trayvon Diggs has left the building.
No, I don't think so. Because anybody that watched last night's show, I was livid. If the Cowboys don't trade or re-sign Trayvon Diggs, I might take the season off because I cannot take another Byron Jones situation. I get the whole compensatory draft pick, but Trayvon Diggs is a first-round talent, and I don't want a 2025 third-round pick as compensation. Absolutely not. Trayvon, I want at least a first-round pick for Trayvon. See if Jerry Jones sent around a league-wide memo just now. Trayvon Diggs is available, and I want a first and a third. There would be an orderly queue to take that deal without a shadow of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So do one or the other. Re-sign him, which I hope they do, or trade him, because this compensatory draft pick thing does not wash with me. It just doesn't. I'm fed up with it, with talent walking out the door for absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
To use a Jerry Jonesism, it's just bad business.
It is. Of course it is. The Patriots were kings at it. See, somebody that was done. I've never seen a better master at trades than the Patriots. The Patriots got so many high draft picks for bang average players because they were Patriots. And I don't see why we can't do that. If you're not going to pay them, get market value for them. Yep. Because Byron Jones went on to be the highest paid corner at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me the Cowboys couldn't have got a first round pick for Byron Jones? Of course they could. And that lets us reinvest in the following draft. Oh, Bavarsky watched last night's show, didn't I? He was there. There. Oh dear. This that's like a moth to a flame, that. But to go back to the original, see, I told you we were going into another 20 minutes, Brian. Told you. Anyway, I'm re-signing Prescott.
Yeah,
I'm re-signing him, and please don't mess about with the franchise tag, because that stung the last time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team got penalized for that. They could have got Prescott under the 40 million mark last time. But they dillied and they dallied, and it just cost more. Because somebody will see next season, somebody will reach 52, 53. The quarterback market will get reset every single offseason.
Has Burrow signed his new deal yet?
Joe Burrow was a 2020 pick.
I don't think
got
he's
another-
resigned. He's resigned yet.
No, I don't think so.
He's got another 2 years left in his deal, is he not?
I should
You
know
can
this.
resign after the third year.
Yeah, but they'll take the fifth option and Burrow.
Oh yeah, no, they can take the 50-year option, but you can also be re-signed after 3 years. And if you haven't been re-signed, you have the right to sit out. I know Rich's brother is a Bengals fan, so this is why.
Yeah, I don't.
oppose it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone hopes for it,
Mhm.
but I don't think anything's actually
Yeah.
happened. I think it's what's probably happening is they're starting to have conversations, and they're going to go, "Do you know what, Joe? It's August. We got camp. We've made some good progress here. We've got some basis for this. Let's go play this season, and we'll pick this up next off season after you've won us a Super Bowl. How about that?" And the athlete will go, "Okay."
Yeah. I think Lebarski's actually made a good point there. I think there's something in Dak's contract that he can't be tagged again.
There may well be.
Yeah.
There may well be. Yeah.
I think you're right there.
Well, that just makes it concrete for me. You have to re-sign him because at least if you had Dak on the tag, you could at least draft a first rounder and give him a season to sit there.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of the first one who was thrown in. Do you know it's probably Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence, day one, first pick, day one, he was thrown in. They had a pretty ugly season last year, but made the playoffs 2 years later.
Yeah.
Does Cowboys Nation want to miss out in the playoffs for a couple of years? I don't think so. Definitely not.
I don't see them wanting that. I can see a very unhappy fan base if that is the case. If we're not in contention.
I haven't seen anything yet. I don't think he does have that clause in his deal because back in February, Stephen Jones was quoted as saying they will extend him and they will probably use the franchise tag.
If one organization, yeah, we're an organization that loves the franchise tag. We've used it on Dak, we've used it on Schultz, we've used it on Tony Pollard, we've used it on DeMarcus Lawrence, we used it on Des Bryant. My word, we love that franchise tag. But one question that's kept coming up, and look, I'm going to throw it to both of you as our offensive line guys in our admin group. Zach Martin. I'm personally not worried. I think this will be sorted very, very quickly. But I'd like to get your own takes on the matter.
I said mine last night. I'll reiterate tonight. But when you go, Rich, you start us off.
Sorry, what was the question again? I was reading something from my brother then.
Zach Martin, what is your take on the situation? Do you think this gets sorted out very quickly? Are you in any way worried about it?
I think it could easily go one of two ways. I think this is more his agent getting in his ear than anything else. Ultimately, it comes down to what was probably an honest conversation of, look, Zach, you've been pretty team friendly for a while now. What good has it done? Time for you to make your money because it doesn't seem like Dallas is going to make it to the promised land anytime soon for you to then get your pay after that. You've already reasonably cemented your place in numerous honors lists and halls. The only thing you're missing now is the money that goes with it. You should probably start pushing a bit. I think they may be able to defer it this year if they don't have a decent amount of success this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem next year. And it will be a problem.
Yeah.
Because he's got more time left in him. He doesn't have to play. But if he's not going to get it, sure, he's going to go elsewhere. And he's going to get it. And then he will retire there. Who knows? Maybe he'll win a Super Bowl ring wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it that did that? Was it Doug Free? No, it wasn't Doug Free, was it?
Taco?
No, offensive lineman went to the Broncos, was it?
That was Doug Free.
No, it was Doug Free.
No, sorry, Ron Leary.
Ron Leary.
There you are.
Ron Leary. Yeah.
I love Ron Leary. And then he'll retire and he'll be known as ex-Cowboy, not ex-whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll have got his money. I think they can defer it for a year because he's Zach Martin.
Yeah.
I think this is the shot across the bow right now. I think Stephen or Jerry will be able to get in his ear and say, give us this season, see how we go. Yeah, D-Ware, obviously, but I was trying to keep it online.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not worried about it this season necessarily, but I am worried about it because it sounds like he wants more money, period, not more money now.
Yeah.
Which, given the caliber of player he is, makes complete sense.
Yeah.
This question came up last night, and it's quite a muddy situation because he still has 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
He has a further void in 2025 of $10 million. And his cap number next year is $23 million.
Yeah.
This comes from the Cowboys have restructured Zach Martin. The Cowboys have restructured Zach Martin. Zach Martin has had his contract restructured by the Cowboys. And all of a sudden, his base salary is $1.7 million. And his cap number this year is $11 million for a Pro Bowler.
Yep.
And he's looking at this year thinking, right, okay, I'm 33. I'll maybe not get another big time deal. I would like to prop up this season. I mean, his cap number is $23 million next year, so that's. But that's money he's probably already spent.
Yeah.
This is why I think that the word restructure is a dirty word, because yes, the players love a restructure, but they forget it extremely quickly. You know, he will have received most of this money already. They need to be very, very careful. Because I said on last night's show, this conversation probably started in January when we lost to the 49ers. It's only just come to media now because we're on the edge of a season. So the Cowboys are probably, I mean, this is just guesswork on my part, but I don't think Zach Martin's the type of guy to wake up one morning with a phone call from his agent and say, Zach, you're underpaid. And for him to go and make all these big statements in the media, he will probably have talked to the Joneses at some point. For me, I would say to him, right, the highest paid guard is Chris Lundstrom from the Falcons, and he's on 20. You're on 11. How about we split the difference? We'll extend this year's deal by $7 million and forget all about it. You can play on $18 million this year because the Cowboys have got the space to do that. So we'll call it the difference. Say you play on $16-17 million and they forget all about it because there's no way, no chance that the Cowboys can let Zach Martin sit out this season. It's just silly we've talked for most of the night about how thin this line is. I really hope also that Zach Martin isn't holding the Cowboys to ransom here, and the fact that he knows that he is one of the Cowboys' top 5 players. There are five starting caliber offensive linemen on this team just now. He's one of them, and I just hope that he's not holding to ransom, because that would be quite poor taste.
Yeah. My personal take on it is this: I don't think he's holding them to ransom at all. I can envisage in the next couple of weeks there is a very short announcement. The Dallas Cowboys and Zach Martin have agreed on a new contract. It is worth $100 million over 6 years, and it gets done. In Zach Martin, you have the best right guard in the game right now, potentially the best right guard to ever play this game. You pay the man his money, you put the chip down, and you get on with it. Simple as that. I think the Joneses are smart enough to know that that is the position they're in, and they will do it. They might have dilly-dallied around with Dak for 18 months. They're not going to do it with Zach Martin. They're just going to get the deal done and out of the way of it.
Wouldn't it be just like the team to extend somebody and his abilities crash through the floor? I mean, think how often it's happened though. The guy's 33.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 years left on his current deal, which takes him to 35. And I know all about. I know what you're saying, Brian, in terms of spreading the money out, getting him what he's paid. But remember, we're already burning $10 million on this current deal.
Yeah.
So how much would we have to burn in the future? I mean, they could always just add, like he's got another void year in 2026.
26.
They could always just add. They could add on $5-10 million to that.
Yeah.
And call it guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm.
They could do that.
Yeah.
Certainly do that. That wouldn't affect this year's draft. This year's salary cap.
Yeah.
And
no, it wouldn't.
Let's face it, the cap number will have rocketed through the roof by 2026 anyway.
Yeah.
So that could be an option. Because that's kind of similar to Prescott's deal.
Yeah. Yeah. He's also signed through 2026.
But he's not actually a player past 2024. It took I don't know about you guys, but it took me a long time to get used to the void years. You know, if you weren't careful, you could have $40-50 million and no player.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. But yeah, part of the reason you need to get him paid is because you can't afford for him to go anywhere else. You've backed yourself into that corner, which again is like I said in the mailbag that's going to come out.
Yeah.
They've been experts at backing themselves into a corner this year. They've been doing it for a while. Part of the reason you can't afford for him to go is because you've already got problems on the line. You can't have another one. Mm-hmm. You can't afford that. We've already had bad luck from that whole line before because Travis Frederick, unfortunately, that situation was what it was.
Yeah.
We're lucky Zach Martin has stuck around as long as he has.
Yeah.
The snag is we've missed and not done anything to help ourselves on that. And that has backed us into now this situation. So if you're not going to re-sign anyone else with the upcoming deals that we've mentioned, Graham specifically has mentioned, you probably need to get this done. Yeah. Get him happy for as long as he plays because he's got a good, physically, I think he's got another good couple of years in him.
Yeah.
I honestly do. Mm-hmm. You've got enough there for a window. Touchwood Steel's okay.
There's a lot of crossing fingers and touching wood and
this is the thing, but
holding lucky
to a
football.
point, you kind of got to do that to a degree. Nothing's definite. Nothing's a given.
Yeah.
Touch wood, Steele plays okay. You'll know after this year.
Yeah.
Your centre is serviceable.
Brian,
You've
bring
got
up
a new left tackle. You need to hit the rest.
like Paul will know from last night's show that comment there. We discussed it on last night's podcast. There is a lot of nothing else to talk about in the NFL world just now. This could be a minor little thing. We could see an extension tomorrow. We could see an extension in an hour. There's very, very little to talk about just now. And this might be a storm in a teacup. But we don't know.
Yeah. It very well could be. Like it's been said, he's missed the Cowboy. But it also might not be. I'm a very big believer of anything in any information space does not come out by coincidence. The fact you know it or when you know it, there's reasons for both of those things. And it's usually one or the other is what you're looking at. And like's been said, it came out the day his Madden rating came out.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll bring it up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can look at that both ways.
Mm-hmm.
That too, you can equally say it's a storm in a teacup, or it could also just be his agent's like, want my guy more money.
Mm-hmm.
Would you both agree that he holds all the aces?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there was comments last night, you know, if he did hold out, it's $50,000 a day. I can't remember who said that. 50,000. That's pocket money to Zach Martin. That's absolutely nothing. Like on this deal, if Zach Martin completes this deal, it's $93 million. Zach Martin probably makes that an interest per day.
Yeah. And these things work both ways. This is a two-way street. This isn't just he's not going to hold out. He's going to lose money.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pocket change to him. The Cowboys lose every Sunday in a big way when Zach Martin isn't on the field. The entirety of Cowboys Nation holds their breath whenever it looks like there may be a hint of anything wrong with Zach Martin. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
A couple of grand a day is jack compared to having Zach Martin on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there's one person who's got the ace card in that situation, and it ain't Jerry Jones.
No. The more I think about it, I mean, Martin's a constant Pro Bowler. He's bounced out to right tackle without batting an eyelid. Looked as if he'd played there his entire career, and his cap number is 11 million in this year. I think Lauren made the point last night. 1.7 million in base salary for a Pro Bowler is silly. The more I think about it, use that 2026 void year, pay the man what he wants, call it pay him in guaranteed salary this year, and put this thing to bed, because that offensive line is too fragile without removing its best player.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Agreed. Graham, you called 20 extra minutes and you were almost spot on with that.
Told you.
So
we started off with a rip-roaring topic, Brian. Hopefully we can talk about something a little bit easier. Like, I don't know who's going to get most sacks next week or something like that, because that's far more straightforward.
I think we all know what the topic of discussion for next week will be. Might not be too close to, not too far away from Zach Martin's neck of the woods.
No. I think we're all ready for training camp, aren't we?
Absolutely are. Joe calling for another 20 minutes. Joe, we had originally scheduled in 30 minutes max for this. We've gone nearly an hour over.
Just to bring it back to quarterback very quickly. Bryce Young is signed.
Yeah. I think it's 39.7 million fully guaranteed.
Yep. So when you ask the question about Burrow, no, he hasn't yet.
Paul's tempting fate. I'm going to throw it to you, Rich.
Oh, why? Get to. Nah, not biting, Paul. Get back under your bridge. Love you, Mama. Get back under your bridge.
So before we do get out of here tonight, the three of us have also been doing up an article, and it will be coming out at some point either tomorrow or on Sunday. It's again another new feature that we're looking at for this season. So it's going to be a weekly mailbag that we do. So if you have questions that you would like us to answer, they can be questions about the team, they can be questions about certain players, it can be about the front office. Hell, if you want to ask us questions about ourselves, we might even answer them. But do keep an eye on our socials for that. That will be coming out again soon. But as far as tonight is gone, and Paul is definitely putting the lines out.
I mean, the house needs painting.
You may not know this, Rich, but I said on the show a couple of weeks ago, somebody is going to show up to Cowboys Experience demanding a chocolate pudding because we talk about it so much.
Do you know what? I went out to grab dinner tonight, went to the shops, went to the meal deal jobby, went out, got lasagna. The missus was like, get something nice. Went to look to the desserts, and I'm like, syrup sponge, sticky toffee pudding, goddamn chocolate pudding right now. Look the other way. I did consider it. I was like, do I get this and just eat it on the show? And I went, no one wants to listen to me eat.
So, as we say, look, there's a lot of new things gonna be coming up in the upcoming year. So Paul is just reminding us, stay in touch with fan groups, and we are looking to have a couple of meetups going on in different parts of the country. Like we generally have our Super Bowl meetup, and there is the trip to Dallas this year, but we are looking to try and arrange a few meetups somewhere in Scotland. There'll probably be one over here in Ireland, and I'll meet people in Dublin for it. Some of the guys over from Wales will be, doing that. So just keep an eye on our social media, just see what's happening in regard to those kinds of things. But look, we've gone an hour and a half. I'm going to say good night, and I'm going to throw it over to Graham and to Rich.
Go on, Graham.
Pay number 4 because somebody else will. It's as simple as that. That's how I'm going to sum up this entire show.
Same. You got no other option. There's no other real option. You don't know what you got yet. I don't think you can really say that.
It's a good night from me, folks.
See you next time.
Ciao for now.